In a world where the boundaries between reality and nightmare blur, where every shadow hides a secret and every whisper carries a warning, one channel dares to venture into the unknown. These are Scary Stories Unleashed, your gateway to the unexplained and frightening outer world. From chilling urban legends to true stories that send shivers down your spine, we bring the darkness to light. But beware, once you enter, there is no turning back. The horror you will witness here will haunt your dreams and your reality. Subscribe now and join us on a journey to the abyss. Press the bell icon so you don't miss any descent into darkness. Because here in Scary Stories Unleashed, the fears never end. It was supposed to be a simple work trip. I had a big presentation in a city a few hours away, and instead of staying in a bland hotel, I decided to book a private room in a shared apartment through Airbnb. The listing looked great: modern decor, a clean space, and a host who seemed friendly and professional. His name was Mark, and in his profile picture, he looked like a normal, middle-aged guy with a warm smile. He had glowing reviews too, so I didn't think twice about booking. When I arrived, Mark greeted me at the door with that same smile from his photo. He was polite, showing me around the apartment and pointing out the amenities. My room was cozy, with a comfortable bed and a small desk where I could work. Everything seemed perfect. Mark even offered me a cup of tea, which I politely declined, eager to settle in and prepare for my presentation the next day. The first night went smoothly. I worked for a few hours, then went to bed early, exhausted from the drive. But the second night, that's when everything changed. I woke up suddenly around 3 a.m. to the sound of my door creaking open. At first, I thought I was dreaming. My heart started pounding as I lay there, frozen, listening to the faint sound of footsteps approaching my bed. I could feel someone standing over me, their presence looming in the darkness. I didn't dare move or open my eyes. My mind raced. Was this real? Was I imagining it? The person didn't say a word. I could hear their breathing, slow and deliberate, as if they were watching me. My skin crawled and I felt a wave of nausea. I kept my eyes shut, pretending to be asleep, praying they would leave. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the footsteps retreat and the door closed softly behind them. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I lay there clutching my phone, ready to call the police if I heard the door open again. My mind was racing. Was it Mark? Why would he do something like this? I kept telling myself maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just a bad dream. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The next morning, I confronted Mark. I tried to keep my voice steady as I asked him if he had come into my room during the night. He looked genuinely confused, almost offended, and denied it completely. "I would never do something like that," he said, his tone firm. "You must have been dreaming." I didn't believe him. I packed my things as quickly as I could, my hands shaking as I shoved my clothes into my suitcase. Mark stood in the doorway, watching me with that same polite smile, but now it felt sinister. "I hope you enjoyed your stay," he said as I left. I didn't respond. I checked into a hotel and reported the incident to Airbnb, but without proof, there wasn't much they could do. They refunded my stay, but it didn't make me feel any better. I couldn't shake the feeling of violation, the memory of someone standing over me in the dark. A few weeks later, I decided to do some digging. I went back to Mark's Airbnb profile and read through the reviews more carefully. That's when I found them. Several reviews from other women, buried among the glowing ones. They described eerily similar experiences, waking up to find Mark in their rooms, sitting at the foot of their beds, or standing over them. One woman even said she woke up to him stroking her hair. I felt sick to my stomach. How had I missed these reviews? How had Airbnb allowed this man to continue hosting? I reported him again, this time with the evidence from other guests, but I don't know if anything ever came of it. That experience changed me. I'll never use Airbnb again, and I'll always double-check reviews no matter how perfect a listing seems. But more than that, I'll never forget the feeling of someone watching me in the dark, the sound of their breathing, and the way Mark smiled at me as I left his apartment. It's a reminder that sometimes the people who seem the most normal are the ones you should fear the most. I rented an Airbnb in a remote cabin for a solo writing retreat, eager to escape the hustle of city life and dive deep into my creative process. The cabin was nestled among towering pines with the distant sound of a river flowing nearby. It was the perfect setting for a writer seeking inspiration. As night fell, I settled into the cozy living room, the flickering light of the fireplace casting dancing shadows on the walls. After a few hours of writing, I decided to take a break and headed to the bathroom. That's when I first noticed something odd about the bathroom mirror. Every time I walked past it, I caught a glimpse of someone standing behind me in the reflection. I turned around, but the room was empty. Just my imagination, I muttered to myself, shaking off the unsettling feeling. I tried to focus on my writing, but the sensation of being watched lingered like a shadow, creeping into the corners of my mind. On the second night, the wind howled outside and the cabin creaked with the weight of the woods. I awoke suddenly, startled by a soft whisper. Is it just the wind? I wondered. But then I heard it again, clearer this time. My name, softly spoken, sending chills down my spine. Heart racing, I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the room. I glanced instinctively at the mirror, and my blood ran cold. There, standing behind me, was a man with an eerie smile, his eyes glinting like shards of glass. I bolted out of bed, adrenaline surging, and fled the cabin, my heart pounding in my ears. I spent the rest of the night in my car, parked under the starlit sky, trying to calm my racing thoughts. The cold air seeped in through the cracks of the window, but I barely noticed. I was too busy replaying the events of the evening in my mind. At dawn, I returned to the cabin determined to face my fears. The sun bathed the area in golden light, and I felt a bit foolish for having let my imagination run wild. I packed my things, ready to leave, but as I was checking out, I confronted the host about my experience. Your place has something unsettling, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The host shrugged. You're just overreacting. It's an old cabin. It creaks and groans. No refunds. Frustrated, I left, my mind swirling with questions. What had I seen? Was it a figment of my imagination, or was there truly something in that mirror? Back in the city, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I began to write about my experience, turning it into a story that intertwined reality with the supernatural. As I wrote, I realized that the man in the mirror represented my own fears. Fear of isolation, fear of the unknown. Weeks later, I finished the piece, and it was published in a respected literary magazine. Readers were captivated by the eerie tale, and I found solace in the fact that I had transformed my frightening experience into art. Now, every time I pass a mirror, I smile, remembering the man who smiled back at me in that remote cabin. I learned that sometimes the things that frighten us can inspire our greatest creations. This past summer, I found myself needing a long-term rental while my home underwent renovations. I stumbled upon an Airbnb that was a bit pricier than I anticipated, but it looked cozy enough. A charming condo tucked away in a gated community, complete with a pool and gym. Most residents were like me, with a mix of short and long-term renters. After settling in and unpacking my belongings, I met my neighbors, a couple named Mia and Liam. They seemed friendly, but I was more focused on my own solitude than making new friends. We exchanged pleasantries before I retreated to my space. That night I struggled to sleep. The bed was far too soft for my liking, and I found myself tossing and turning. Around midnight, I noticed movement through my window. Mia and Liam's unit was directly next door, and their blinds were wide open. To my shock, they were in the middle of a heated argument. Despite my better judgment, I couldn't look away. The tension escalated, and soon they were shoving each other. I felt a knot in my stomach as I debated whether to call 911. Just then, things took a dark turn. I watched as Liam pushed Mia to the ground. For a brief moment, everything went still, and then Mia lunged with a lamp in hand, striking Liam. Blood splattered against the window, and my heart raced. I should have called for help immediately, but I was frozen in disbelief. Then, as if sensing my gaze, Mia turned and locked eyes with me. A chilling smile crept across her face. Panic surged through me, and I finally reached for my phone, dialing 911. Within minutes, the police arrived. I rushed outside to explain what I had witnessed. The first officer took notes while the second glanced toward the neighboring unit. I was convinced the nightmare would end soon, but then Liam appeared, very much alive, yawning as if he had just woken up. "What's going on?" he asked, looking confused. Mia joined him, apologizing to the officers for causing a scene, claiming I must have been dreaming. The officers, clearly annoyed, warned me about the seriousness of making false reports and left without any action against them. Once they were gone, Mia burst into laughter. "You fell for it," she exclaimed, revealing that they love pulling pranks on their neighbors. Liam, however, looked humiliated. "It's just a joke," he muttered, while Mia continued to giggle, oblivious to his discomfort. I decided to ignore them and try to get some sleep. But later that night, a creaking noise jolted me awake. I opened my eyes to see Liam climbing through my bedroom window. "I'm escaping," he whispered urgently. "Mia's gone too far this time." I hesitated, torn between disbelief and concern. "You need to leave," I said, but he insisted he needed a safe place to hide. Just then, Mia's voice echoed from the other side of the wall, calling for him. Panic set in, and Liam ducked down, hiding under my bed. "Have you seen Liam?" she shouted, and I felt the weight of the situation. I almost revealed his location, but then I caught Liam's pleading eyes. "No," I lied, hoping she would leave. After what felt like an eternity, she finally stomped back into her unit. "You don't understand," Liam said, his voice trembling. "She's not just playing around anymore. She's serious about her pranks." Before I could respond, the atmosphere shifted. I heard Mia's laughter, but it was darker, more sinister. Suddenly, the door swung open, and there she stood, a knife glinting in her hand. "You thought you could hide him," she sneered. In a flash, Liam scrambled toward the window. I grabbed my phone, ready to call for help, but Mia lunged for him, and I felt a surge of adrenaline. "Get away from him!" I screamed, but it was too late. The chaos that followed was a blur. I managed to push Mia back, giving Liam a chance to escape through the window. I grabbed the knife from the floor where Mia had dropped it, and as she lunged at me, I defended myself, the blade glinting in the moonlight. Moments later, I stumbled outside, breathless and shaken. I didn't know what to do. The police had left, and I was alone in a world where pranks had turned deadly. I ran to the nearest neighbor I could find, pleading for help. Eventually, the police returned, but it was too late. Mia had vanished, leaving only chaos behind. They took my statement, but I could see skepticism in their eyes. Now I'm left in a limbo of uncertainty, haunted by what happened that night. The couple who seemed so charming at first turned out to be a nightmare. I'm still waiting for the day when the truth comes out.